Welcome to the Claims Underground podcast with your hosts, Corey Locke and Troy Willis, where we help policyholders just like you understand your policy and how to navigate through an insurance claim. We advocate for homeowners as well as businesses when insurance companies won't pay. So if you're tired of getting the runaround and ready to find out what's really going on, then let's get down to business and learn from the insurance claims experts, Corey Locke and Troy Willis.
Welcome back to Claims Underground. My name is Troy Willis. My co-host here is Corey Locke. We have a very interesting show today that we're going to talk about regarding excluding public adjusters. This is an issue that has started out in this state, especially in Louisiana. So we want to kind of get a little bit more into this. Corey and I both thought this would be a very interesting topic to bring forward to everyone and understand why they're trying to exclude public adjusters and how is it or is it not beneficial for them to exclude public adjusters. So let's start by introducing myself and my background. As again, I said, my name is Troy Willis. I'm a licensed public adjuster. I'm also an expert witness, testify state federal court, expert, also a retired builder, building consultant, certified umpire, certified appraiser, and a few other certifications that go along with that as well. Let me introduce Corey Locke. He's going to give you his background, let you know a little bit about him, and maybe what we got to say might be very informative to you. Go for it, Corey.
Hey, guys. Thanks for coming back. This is Corey Locke, public adjuster of 35 years now as a independent adjuster, large loss adjuster for the carriers, and now public insurance adjuster. I've been licensed in the state of California for more than 20 years as both an IA and a PA. And I'm also got certifications for moisture testing, ACAC smoke and fire consultant, and triple master IICRC. And today we're talking about an interesting topic that's been hot coming off the presses out of the East Coast. And maybe you never heard of a public adjuster, and maybe this is your first foray to understand what this is all about. Because quite honestly, you never had a problem with your insurance until you asked them for money, and now they're not giving you the money. So people are telling you, "Hey, go talk to a public adjuster." Well, let's bring up the topic of excluding public adjusters. There's a hot button that's happening out on the East Coast, Florida, Louisiana. Something very recently in the last 2 weeks, inside of February, was happening that insurance carriers were creating exclusions to their policies that the policyholders were signing on to at the time that they were buying the policies. This came up. Commissioner state of Louisiana for Department of Insurance said, "Oh, no. You cannot exclude a public adjuster from your contract. That's just not kosher." They made an executive decision, an executive order, and that later got turned around by the Louisiana High Court to our understanding. And Louisiana High Court said, guess what? If you're sitting in your agent's office and your agent is saying, "Hey, Joe, we'll give you a cut on your premium. We're going to save you 10%. All you got to do," and they slide it across the table, "is sign this little document that says, we're never going to use a public adjuster on my claim." And then you do that, you sign that away, and we'll give you off 10% off your premium. Well, you just signed away a policy right to hire a professional to help you understand your claim. That was held up as being something allowed because that was a contractual agreement that was between you and your agent and the insurance company. So that had nothing to do with them, making a broad statement about we'll never work with public adjusters. No, guys, you when you were paying your premium or negotiating what you were going to get for a policy out on the East Coast, they were quickly sliding this under your nose saying, "Hey, what do you want to save 10%, 8%, 5%, whatever it was, you were signing away your rights to use a professional adjuster." So that was upheld as being a contractual agreement that was absolutely valid and allowed in the state of Louisiana. Is that all over the place? No, there are questions of against public policy of certain states. We believe, as I've had conversations with our attorneys out here, that's not allowed because we're licensed by the Department of Insurance. Why would they exclude us if we're a licensed adjuster? That we have to go through a background check, that we have to actually fulfill a very rigorous background check, and also go through training of multiple hours, and also take a very difficult test that only if there's a 50% passage rate. So quite honestly, that's not something we're talking about here. But guess what? Why in the world would an insurance company want to exclude a public adjuster unless we're very valuable to you? Would you believe that they would want to exclude us for any reason unless it actually hurts them or helps you? There's only a reason to exclude something out of your policy. It's that it's going to save them money and not give you a benefit. So you're signing away your benefits for a very small percentage. So what's the next thing that they can slide under your nose? Hey, if you promise not to sue us, we'll cut you another 10% off your premium. If you promise never to use a contractor, we'll cut another 10% off your premium. Tell you what, we'll cut 50% off your premium if you never turn in a claim. You see how ludicrous this starts sounding. Guys, this always comes down to what are they putting under your nose to read? If they're putting something under your nose to read, to date, to sign, to initial, this, and then give a signature with your blood on it, that's because they're taking your rights away. That has nothing to do with you saving money. It has them every single bit of the time about them saving money and putting you in a corner. So we don't believe that this is going to happen out here in the West. We could be wrong, but this all comes down to you sitting in the little room with your agent, and they say, "Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you signing up." And you're already signed the policy. Hey, you want to save 10 more percent? Hey, your antenna red flag needs to go up. He is going to start limiting my options and limiting my benefits if they start talking about in the little room about saving you money, and you got to sign your rights away.
That's right.
Maybe there are some stipulations on how they're selling it. I don't know, Troy. Maybe they're in that room saying, "I can't sell you this policy unless you sign this form." I don't know. Maybe they're putting the hammer down on them and trying to sell it that I can't possibly bind your insurance unless you sign this form. That sounds really extreme. I think that would be a problem for the agent and their licensing trying to do crap like that. But who knows? We don't know what this is, other than the result is uh, they're not going to be able to use a trained professional to help them with their claim. And that only helps the insurance company. That doesn't help you.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, I remember reading some articles regarding the Department of Louisiana, the insurance in Louisiana, the Department of Insurance. And they were mentioning that when they were battling this issue regarding public adjusters, first of all, being able to advocate for people. They're one of the few states that don't allow a public adjuster to advocate on your behalf, which was one of the biggest issues. They said, well, a public adjuster can investigate and recommend. I'm not sure how that really makes a lot of sense in what we all do. But then again, when I look at the comparison of what most public adjusters do here in California and what we do as public adjusters, I can see a little difference, a medium between that as well. But you know, when you take away these rights, as you say, or you start offering these discounts, it's cause it's going to save you money somewhere in the long haul. And their position, the insurance industry in Louisiana's position was, it's these PAs that's driving our cost up. Let's look at this. As long as we've been doing this, they don't ever give you the money they owe you, let alone they're going to give you additional money just because you got a public adjuster. You don't give people money because they got an attorney. So now we become Santa Claus. Then we walk in and you say, hey, they got a public adjuster, so we could just spend all this money. No, you only spent that money because that public adjuster proves you owe that money. And that's usually the only time you make a payment. I've never, been in this industry over 30 years, I've never seen an insurance company just overpay somebody. That's never happened.
Doesn't happen. No.
Not once in any claim I've handled. I've never seen them, and I've seen some fair estimates that came through. I've seen those, but I've seen more than I can count when it comes to lowball estimates. And that kind of gets to what we're talking about, excluding these public adjusters. That's happening because you're getting a lot of people that's filling these seats that don't have a clue about construction, never built a doghouse a day in their life. And you tell this guy to go out here in the field and he's your investigator. And we talk about what's going on in Florida. This is one of the issues they have. So these guys go, these adjusters go out to this loss and they tell you everything they see by their professional opinion. This has to be done. This is what's damaged. And then you send it back, they send it back in, and they're told that, we ain't got no control over this. We told what we can write, which they only say that over the phone. They never say it in writing. And then they turn around and say, hey, management won't approve it. So, as we both know that usually management don't approve something, they look at what the cost is. They don't look at what the repairs are. They just look at how much is the cost. You deny that. That's what they do. Or don't pay that. Or they'll make things like we don't pay that. And I think that when we look at what's real and what's not real, and that real is one, they'll never give us money you're not entitled to. So that goes out the door. And two, if I'm going to give you a discount at something, who does that benefit really? Does it benefit the customer or does it benefit me? I'm offering you a discount because if you use one of these people who know the law about insurance and they come in here and tell you that I'm not doing something correct, this could cost me more money. So I'm offering you a discount. And think about when you sign up for this discount, though, Corey. The worst of it is if they're already paying you 20, 30,000, they owe you 2 or 300,000. You just gave them the right to do it without nobody checking behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And we seeing this all, and it's like it's open door to basically say, I pay whatever I want to pay if I got customers like this, because we're watching this happen even in Florida and California. Today, as I shared an article with you about what these adjusters was coming forth and telling everybody about how these people changing their photographs, deleting things, taking out words, changing the words, just so many things they doing to say no to somebody. And then in return, they raise the rates of insurance to all these customers. And as we were reading, they're paying, the average customer in Florida is paying over $4,200 to $4,700 a year in insurance because of these type of, situations and disasters. And then we feeling it all over the United States as well. How they keep increasing our costs. As I was just telling you recently, I got to increase to my insurance. I mean, $3,900 over a year. For what? There's no change. There's nothing going on. But you losing money somewhere else makes you feel like you need to make it up elsewhere. But is that really true? That's the question that comes today for me out here, is that, are you really losing money? If you are not paying people what you owe them and you continue to take premiums from them and you continue to raise rates all across the country to make up for these alleged disasters that you are denying to pay, or you're paying pennies on a dollar, I'm almost starting to wonder, isn't it more profitable to have catastrophes than it is not for the insurance companies? I mean, think about how that money trickles down. I mean, they make more money raising rates every year. If you raise me one person at $3,900, it's fine with 5 million people in California, and this not even count the household, the homeowner. So let's say you even gave a third of that, $1,000, which could hurt a household. And then now you got these, and you get this from all these people, but then when you have claims, you say denied.
Now let's explore that a little bit. So that's a perfectly great example of how to get around an insurance commissioner that won't allow an insurance company to raise their rate. They won't allow them to take rate. So let's just say on the next catastrophe that they have here in California, and you might get, just like Paradise, you lost 20,000 homes. Out of 20,000 homes, and you start playing around with the idea that, hey, we're going to start saving money on the amount of that we're paying out, and then that's going to make actually more money for us than if we had raised the rates of everyone else in the state that we're providing coverage for.
Way
That's a
more.
great all day long.
Way more. I mean, if I don't pay you $20 billion, you know what I mean? And I would only make 10 million in raising rates. It's almost like the philosophy, you dump oil in the ocean. Well, you might get a couple $100,000 fine, but how many times did you dump oil all year? You know what I mean? To where you finally make out. And that's the same scenario, because even in the article we read today, I noticed that they were paying roughly about 10% of the claims of what they owed. I know the article mentioned a third, but when you looked at numbers, if you got you give them $20,000, it's a $200,000 claim. I'm not sure how they got to a third. It's unreal. 10%. I mean, That's worse than extortion from a loan shark, man. 10%. I'm only gonna pay you 10% of what I
So
owe you.
so let's play that out. How many claims did they have in Florida? I think, if I understood correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had 1,000,000 claims. We had 1,000,000 claims in
Plus, that's
Florida.
right.
In
Not the
all the claims, there were 1,000,000 claims. And what we're seeing in the article that came out is that only 10% of what was being forecast is going to be, payable.
Mhm.
So let's just say we'll round these numbers out. Let's just say that they paid 3,000 out of 26, and the savings right there is $23,000
Per
per
person.
claim. So I got 1,000,000 times $23,000. Now, hopefully, I didn't screw up my air math. So, wow. So, is that $23 billion?
You feel me?
20, so, big number here, guys. So, they got more in rate than they did anywhere. And by doing that, then try to raise rates just to save
Not to
money.
mention, I mean, can you imagine? Look how much you just showed to save off of just that small amount, though. Because keep in mind, you did a small amount, but what we do know, and we both know this, even with their article, and we see this from experience, you only paid them 10%. You used 23,000 where they gypped these people out of 180. Look, so now where does that number you know what I mean? Where they
Yeah,
multiply to. So you
right.
know what I mean? 9 times the amount now, and it's like, and you're hurting and you think you should pass this cost on to everybody else. I mean, I'm starting to see this more of a plus for them than a minus. I really am. It's
Oh,
about
yeah.
balancing budgets. Like in California, many carriers are starting to no longer reinsure, or they're not only going to renew, they're not even selling policies now. And again, it's kind of like, again, you know where to play your hand in poker. You have an idea when to fold and when not to fold and when to bluff and when not to bluff. And this is one of them scenarios that for us, as we seeing, when claims are actually handled, they're not handled the way they used to be. We figure out what coverage is here and we get you paid and get going. Now it's more that everything that comes in the door that's filed, it's almost like it starts at denial. And you have to prove that it's an actual peril that's covered, even though it's clearly covered. And then when you clearly cover it, you get these adjusters who, and we speak about public adjusters now, and adjusters go there. These adjusters who have no experience, no real education about it, no training, no. Well, they do a background check on independence, but how much is that really doing? They're going to do what they understand of what's going on. And then flip back to what you said. A public adjuster goes through this, all these vigorous type of, training and qualifications and CEs and, our background checks. And, we have to pass this exam. And, whereas, and that's the getter, you would make us be smart enough or educated enough to understand and interpret this, but you keep putting the people that actually do this in place that can just put anybody in that seat that don't understand nothing at all. That'll never make sense, but it makes sense from a standpoint of balance of who wants to win. It's like recently I read an article about how bad customer service is getting here in this country. And we all know why, though. I mean, you can't reach anybody. Everybody's by email. We ain't gonna talk to anybody no more. Anybody that's important when you're spending money. And when you're spending
Right.
big money, you don't want that kind of response that I can't even get in touch with you. How many times we've got through things, just no email to go back to even reach somebody. That customer service is starting to spread throughout many corporations. I mean, a lot of people was misplaced during 2008 with jobs. So people started taking jobs as long as they paid the bills. They didn't deserve to be in kind of jobs. I mean, everybody don't need to be in healthcare. They don't care about people. They don't, it's the paycheck. And this is the business too, where if you in this industry as an adjuster or a public adjuster, you got to care about this job. When I was an independent adjuster, every day I got up and I did this, and every customer was different. We go out here, see what this claim got to do, see how we get it resolved, see how we get it paid, and get it off my desk. Today, every claim from small to large, I got a call today from a guy. It was really sad. If you would have heard what he got a small roof leak and don't know what caused the roof to leak. It ain't even came into the house, but a little bit of drywall, just a little bit of drywall got wet. And he's just like, he's panicking. He go, I need to hire a public adjuster. Everyone's telling me I need a public adjuster. You know, it's like, let me slow you down. Let's read your policy first. You know what I mean? They're gonna pay you an undisputed. Don't come in here hiring us just to get money from you. You know, you got to know when we're needed. We're not needed here yet, but people are panicking that bad. And now we got all these floods out here. We got all these windstorms out here. We got all this snow out here, and all these people are sustaining all this damage. And we seeing it already from December, January, that these estimates are coming in extremely low. I mean, it just makes no sense in the world, just extremely low. Up in South Lake Tahoe, I got a gentleman up there, 2 bathrooms gutted completely and a kitchen. You ready for this? They came back and said, you can do this for $2,400. $2,400, Corey. And then they said, well, hey, we ain't covering the rest of that because there was mold. How'd the mold get there? What came first, water or mold? You know, now and then you go, well, you know, the restoration company said they didn't see no water. But the plumber who wrote out an invoice said the water was shooting all across the wood. But your restoration company, you see I'm saying how that worked out? Like, everybody that's professional and know their job, this licensed plumber that knows his job, got to be critiqued by you sitting behind the desk saying, they didn't tell me there was no water. So you just had mold take over your 2 bathrooms and the kitchen, and they're not even all adjacent to each other. I mean, work with me on it. It just makes no sense. But, and this goes to my point. So how does that person move forward? Well, they called the insurance company. They got ignored over and over. Nobody ever did anything. So they had to go out and find a public adjuster, somebody who could advocate for them on their behalf. Now, if we take this right away from people, excluding public adjusters, as small or big as a claim gonna be, what would the insurance companies do to you then? No matter what your policies say, they're ignoring that now, and it's their contract.
Right.
They wrote it. It's their own contract. It's a one-way contract that we all get, and yet you still violate your own policy and what you say you'll do. So I think, you know, excluding public adjusters is crazy. First of all, it's like saying we're gonna get rid of lawyers next. You're gonna take them off of this. Like you said, you can't sue us, and we'll give you a 10% discount. What's that discount costing you, though?
Mm-hmm.
If I, you know what I mean? If I got to give you my rights, that I can't do anything. But keep in mind, if I'm gonna give you my rights, I got to continue to pay you all these premiums every month. How many customers you've gotten? I know I've had a lot pissed off going, why am I still paying them every month? And why can't I go to another insurance company when they're doing me wrong? Because most insurance companies won't accept you while you have a claim in process.
Right. While your house is torn up, they're not going to accept you.
They don't want that liability. They don't know what's going on. And so, you know, it's a hard battle going back and forth. But, you know, for us and us educating people and outside of us advocating for people, you know, there's a difference that I see when it comes to public adjusters. And that's been all over the country from East Coast to West Coast. And you and I have discussed this. You know, we could take some of the PA companies here. Many PA companies, folks, actually, their PAs don't actually do any advocating. They just do sales. They go out, they chase a fire, they hear it on a firebox, they show up at your home, and they sell the job, even to their company. And they never once advocate for your loss. Now, does that make them any different or special than Corey and I, or make them less educated? Well, by far, yes. I got to say that, because no certifications, no understanding of what the policy is really about or the claim. Their job is just to sell you a pitch to get you to sign with them so their company can handle this matter. That's something we don't do. That's one of our models, completely different than probably 90% of the public adjusters in the state of California. We're not public adjusters that just got a title. We actually go in and advocate for that loss. We build cases for law firms. We testify in them cases for law firms. We take claims that definitely should be a no-go, and we've come back with millions on surreal that should have never happened. But you don't get that from people that don't understand how to advocate. You know, You said one day we were making jokes and laugh. You say, "Hey, I had to tell a customer I ain't got a magic wand, but miracles are $35 an hour." And I still laugh about that because we should be rich with all the miracles that we didn't pull it off. And yet it's just the funny for them to go, "Hey, they pull off that," because they think that sometimes they think when we hire you, we automatically gonna get paid. You're the one that's going to make this happen. You're going to change everything. And we have to reset that expectations because
Right.
you purchased a policy with this company. And if you had to hire a lawyer, which is going to hire us anyway, what difference would it make? That lawyer can't make them do anything. It's going to have to go through a process. And that's the process that we explain. And that process is so important because if you did not have a public adjuster, you'd be on your own. And we see that that's the reason we out here in need, because these people are left on their own, and they left, as we read in this article, they have to return home to a house with no roof because there's not enough money to repair, or a house with sludgy water all through the carpets that's half cut out. I read that entire article. Heartbreaking. This is what these people got to go home to, and they didn't pay you $4,000 a year to protect their loss. So when do the states say enough is enough? And again, the state is not oblivious to the fact that what insurance companies do and how they do it. I think they need to be held more accountable than what they are. That's my own personal opinion.
I
Um,
agree.
and I think that people should always, the same way you have a right to hire an attorney, you should have the right to have someone advocate for you with your insurance claim, because it is a legal matter. And me personally, if I didn't understand this business, I wouldn't want to take it on not understanding it. I'd hire somebody that knows what they're doing.
How often, Troy, do we get called on a weekly basis that it's not just the insured that's calling us? We have law firms that call us
And that's why one of the reasons
every
coming
week.
to the excuse me. I was gonna say that's one of the reasons we came to this
We have law firms.
around the segments.
Right. We have law firms that call us and say, "Hey, we got this situation. Can you take this on and stand this thing up and see where it goes?"
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not ready for litigation. That's basically what
Mm-hmm.
they tell us. It hasn't been proven, hasn't been estimated, hasn't been investigated, hadn't been vetted. It's just a problem. They came out, the insurance company came out and said it's X, or they say it's no coverage. And
Mm-hmm.
then the law firm says there's nothing we can do with it because we don't create an understanding of the loss. See,
That's
that's
right.
what we do. We're investigators. We go out, we determine what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and what's going to take to put it back. And
Mm-hmm.
we actually create the document that serves as the basis for what goes forward, either resolution with the insurance company, or goes to mediation, or goes to the law firm and still might go to mediation. But the fact is, if they want to exclude public adjusters, there's a good reason for that, because we get into their ass all day long.
All
We
day
know the
long.
law, we know how to read a policy, we know how to vet a claim, and we know how to write an estimate. And so if we weren't getting so far into bringing the microscopes and, doing the examinations, to what they're doing, they wouldn't be worried. They wouldn't exclude
No
us.
doubt.
They
No
wouldn't care.
doubt. No doubt.
They would not care.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've left some impressions on some of them, and they will never forget who we are when it comes to another claim again. You can believe it's a different way of handling it when it comes back around, because they realize we don't won't go away. And even with us, and even knowing other public adjusters speaking to them, people wonder sometimes, what do you do different that I can't do? That's always a good question for me when I get somebody to
It
come
is. It's a great question.
and they feel, hey, I'm educated, I can do what you do. And I don't disagree with anybody. I think anyone can do what I do, but there's a level of understanding how to do it. There's a level, as you just mentioned, there's the way documentation should be presented. There's an understanding of what this documentation is and what it interprets and how it plays a part in what goes on. There are laws in place that we understand, because this is our industry, that this is what regulates them to do the right thing. And I kind of bring that to the table because I had a customer who was really he was stuck on the fact that, hey, it's been 40 days and they ain't paid me. but he skipped the whole process of what it said. After you submit a demand proof of loss, no demand was ever sent out. He just was stuck on, hey, it's been more than 40 days. They owe me. And he just lost it with them. And I'm like, and I had to kind of explain to him that this is a process that most homeowners do miss. And if you don't know, then you should know that you need to file a loss after your a demand proof of loss after your loss. Um, and most cars, I've always seen them say up to 60 days in the policy. Man, we didn't came along 9, 10 months later, as you know, and ain't no demand proof of loss been filed. Um, but that's always something that starts to set the pace that when we come back, what can you do that I can't do? Well, I know that if I'd have filed this proof of loss for you, I just got the clock to ticking to force them to do things that they normally wouldn't do. And due to the fact that you, as an individual that don't do this every day, that don't know this is what to do, your claim sits around for 8 or 9, 10 months till you get tired of playing this hackle job with them. And then you call people like me to go, what can I do? They're ignoring me. They won't, they just keep sending me the same letter over and over. They're asking me things I don't want to do. I mean, you purchased a policy that was a one-way policy. It really was. And you are obligated to oblige to that policy if you have a claim. You have to cooperate in every way and not say, what you should and should not do. I mean, we had a customer literally called the other day that was upset that the insurance company called her landlord. And the landlord said, hey, only this day was the day it happened. And it didn't happen on that day. And she's upset. I don't know if it happened or didn't happen, Corey. But again, they got the right to investigate a law. So people have to just not just say things, and that's what we do. We make sure that whatever we present, we support. Whereas the average person wouldn't know how to support it. They just know to present it. And there's things that under the insurance law that allows the carrier to do things that or regulates them in the way they're supposed to do things. As we talk about the insurance code 2051, their obligation of how to return an insured back to pre-loss condition. That's one that's overlooked all the time. If you start excluding public adjusters, especially here in the state of California, that one really gonna get violated a lot more than it is. Because that's the reason usually we hear because of that violation. They ain't paid the extra cash value of what the damages are, or the depreciation is just over the top. They didn't took 70% and 80%, knowing that the law doesn't allow them to do this. And as a consumer, you only got two choices who can actually help you, and that's a public adjuster and an attorney. So that's
and both and both are fiduciaries under the laws of the state of California. A public adjuster is a fiduciary licensed professional who, as their fiduciary responsibility, is to put the insured's benefits ahead of their own.
absolutely.
I mean, not many people understand what that really means. A fiduciary means that whatever they're owed is secondary to whatever the insured is owed.
That's right.
The only other licensed professional in the state of California is an attorney, and then they also have social fiduciaries under social services. But as far as licensed insurance professionals, attorneys and public adjusters are fiduciaries. So, if you want to exclude a fiduciary because they know the law, there must be something to that.
All day long. And I know people in this country know better than giving up their rights. I mean, we're watching what's going on in this country every day and people fighting for their rights. So to sign your rights away for a discount is never, I mean, that's like the worst going back, but it's happening. We're seeing it happening. And that's the reason we had to bring this segment to light. I mean, because we are seeing it happen and it's better to get ahead of this now. We can't save everyone. Everybody won't see this podcast. Not to say, hey, maybe I should look for that or maybe I shouldn't sign that. But for those that do, we'll have a better understanding not to do such a thing to give up their rights. I mean, none of us should relinquish our rights to anybody, especially when we're the ones paying for what we need.
Right, and this is not the only document they're sliding across offering you a discount on. They're offering you a discount if you opt in to go for mediation instead of appraisal under the policy.
Yeah.
So they're sliding. You say, "Hey, save 10%. Don't use a public adjuster." And also, you want to save another 10%? Here, slide it across. If you opt in for formal mediation rather than appraisal under the policy, you're going to save bunches of money with that. You'll never, ever, ever need to go that way because you'll never have a claim. But guess what? You have just signed your rights away
Mhm.
to go for appraisal under the policy rather than mediation. Mediation's a very formal matter. You got to follow the rules of evidence. You have to have an attorney. You have to have a court reporter, be videographer. It is all but a mini trial by signing up for mediation. Plus, the insurance company is going to designate who the mediator is going to be. They're going to specifically say we were going to go for, United States Mediators Incorporated or whatever it is. You're signing your rights away by getting a little bit of a discount by saying, oh yeah, I'll sign up for mediation rather than appraisal. Appraisal, you have a lot more benefits to that rather than going through mediation, which is much more formalized, which is much more costly, and you will probably never do it because it is too much of a lift, and the insurance companies know that. So I
Not to
can't
mention
remember
it's
what the
all.
third, yeah, I can't remember the third document is other than a public adjusters, mediation. Maybe it has something to do with the payout, actual cash value, maybe languages regarding actual cash value. I don't know. Maybe that's so codified that that wouldn't be something that we would see, at least out here in California. But it all happens in the agent's little cubbyhole, or it happens online where they're pitching you, save money here, save money here. So it won't be just the higher deductible. It's going to be signing your rights away. So.
I think one good thing when you just mentioned about these agents, and I know this is we found this to be one of those things that is that small needle in a haystack that holds agents accountable. And I know many people may not know this, and I'm gonna say it because it needs to be said. Stop searching for the cheapest policy you can find. Don't go online looking for the best price. What you are getting many times is a bare bone policy that doesn't offer you a lot of coverage at all. And when you have these losses, you're usually really upside down with what you just got because you was trying to do the right thing by having coverage on the properties. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that affect a lot of people because their policies are not built properly with what they need to cover their risk. It's
Mhm.
just more of, we look at the smaller dollar to save dollars, but there's a lot of forms that's left out that you need for coverage. And with all that being said, going to where I was going with this is this. If your agent is not offering you coverages that he's supposed to be offering you, or the fact that he's not, haven't put it in writing that it's enough, you should go to that agent and say, do I got enough coverage on my house? And I look for a way to put it in writing, even if it's in an email. And once he go with yes, I mean, again, here's what a fine line I know gets to play in that. In many policy, it tells you it's your responsibility to know how much insurance you need. But it is an obligation too that they're supposed to actually give you the coverages that you need as well. And some things they have to offer you by law, like earthquake insurance, for example. They have to offer it to you. And there's many forms you have to sign off that you've been offered and you decline the coverages. That's been going on. I just did some of those with farmers recently, as well. So I mean, it's some things they must tell you, and some things they'll never tell you. But you should always ask that question: is this enough coverage in case I had a loss in my home to put me back to pre-loss condition? And I think that kind of goes a little bit above your responsibility to know how much more coverage you got, the way I understand the law. And I know we use that against people before, more of an errors and omission situation as well. Because I've even said, hey, can we go in for reformation of the policy since he quoted it wrong? But we've seen, you just had a policy change recently, matter of fact, when it
I
came in,
did, and I
a
still have a
policy.
complaint about it. Yeah, and I still got a
Absolutely.
gripe about it.
And see,
They
so again,
didn't reform it.
yep.
Yeah, they did not reform it to what it was. They reformed it to something that's going to save them money. So, okay, well, I appreciate you reformed it, but we're not done with the conversation.
And it's
Only a,
important.
only a licensed professional is going to get you there with
That
that.
that's why they shouldn't allow it. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna pass. I don't. I don't think they're gonna get that pass. I know there are already some companies writing them into some of their policies. I think that, we had this conversation before. I know you was mentioning something about the non-admitted carriers that um, to some point in some regulations, they don't fall into that certain groups that allow them to have to report that type of thing. And that gets them around the corner with this. But we do know that, again, some of the major players in this game that'll never get away with it. And I think that once it actually starts, and I think they stand out of California on purpose with this, once it makes its way over here, it's going to be a major issue. I mean, it's one of the hardest states out here when it comes to anything, especially insurance. So I don't think they're trying to, touch the waters over here personally. But we just want you guys to know that how important it is to preserve your rights, and just to know that there are people out here that can advocate for you on your behalf. The insurance companies spend billions of dollars a year for experts or employees. I'm not going to say experts, and professionals to write reports, to minimize costs, to follow guidelines that they have, even though they know better and they know that it should be more to be done. So if you take that right away from you, there's no one out here that can put them in check to make them to do the right thing. And I'll leave it on this note. It's going back to that article we spoke about. If your adjuster come in here and he wrote, and this is the way I understood it, he wrote $43,000, and then the insurance managers went and readjusted his claim to 20-some thousand dollars, when in fact it's a $200,000 estimate. How do you ever get there where you need to go by yourself?
True that.
I mean, it's almost seems impossible. Even when we get cases that, how do we turn this around, and how do we get people to, see the light, or to get past a system that's designed for it not to go past. That's what we do, and that's the real side of it versus many public adjusters. I mean, we take on all kind of claims, and a lot of PAs, they take on a lot of claims, but within all rationality, they don't. They chase fires. We don't chase work. We don't knock at nobody's door soliciting for our services. That's not what we do. That's not our business model at all. Our works is realistically a high level of referrals, as well as also from search engine optimizations and marketing and so forth like that. But there's many PAs out here that will never do the job that needs to be done. So we always recommend, do your due diligence, check out the PA, see what they're all about, see how they've been in business, find out a little bit about, the kind of cases that they take on, ask the questions. Just don't hire somebody. And this is the biggest thing we get in the first part of the conversation. How much? We don't even know your case. We don't know nothing about what's going on to, and that tells us a little bit too. That means you're shopping for a cost and not shopping for help. And that's the worst thing you can do.
Which is how you got here.
That's
you were
why
shopping for a cost and not the service.
And that's the worst, because you get what you pay for. It's like when people say to us, they say, well, were you willing to negotiate your rate? We've been on the phone 5 minutes, and if I negotiate my rate with you, and I always ask every customer that says that, do you really want me to be advocating for your loss when I just gave up however much of my money to you within 5 minutes? I mean, let's just be reasonable. I mean, you pay for what you get, and that's just the bottom line. So I think that I think it's a topic that we probably need to follow a little bit more than we probably have, because again, it's something that affects our own industry completely. And I think that this will be something that's going to get changed in legislation if it gets changed. It can't just happen. I don't think it's just going to happen by the states. I don't. I think it's going to have to be a big hitter for it to really make a difference. It's got to start somewhere, but it won't start in one of these big states. It's going to start somewhere small, personally.
Right.
So, well, we are going to wrap this up, folks, for this evening. We appreciate you joining our show for tonight. We definitely wanted to touch bases on why it's important to have a public adjuster, and why is it very critical for them not to be able to get rid of us. It's critical we stay here. It's critical we here to help and preserve your rights and get you what you're entitled. Is there something you'd like to leave our people tonight, Corey, regarding even this subject, regarding, excluding public adjusters, that'll be a good thought for them to remember for tonight?
Well, it's always about incrementalism. If they're willing to exclude public adjusters as licensed professionals because we actually are effective, where do they stop with that? Where do they exclude the next person, the next professional? And what percentage are you willing to give up for just a little bit of savings for signing away all your rights?
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. I mean, it's things we seeing. We hope it can change, and we wishing everybody well with how things go with their claims and their insurance. But we're not here to talk about anybody. We just really here to educate and get you to understand that you have rights. So we'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. I'll sign off as usual. Troy Willis.
Corey Locke, we thank you all. Please come back.
Thanks for listening to the Claims Underground podcast. We hope you enjoyed this segment. If you need more information on insurance policies, feel free to check out our website, www.claimsunderground.com. And remember, when the insurance companies won't pay, we're here to help. Until next time.